Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're not completely melted in this beautiful Moravian weather. I hope you have ears full of beautiful music, stomachs full of really, really delicious food, and eyes open and minds open for another dose of wisdom, knowledge, experience, expansion, for ideas that has no borders. My name is Yemi Akniemidele, and I have the honor to be here for you and for our amazing women, because this panel discussion is all about women who are doing great things out in the world as well as home with their families. And because we know how difficult it is to the marriage of the two, the career and the family is, and because I think in Czech Republic we have very particular approach to leadership and to creating safe spaces for women to be able to go for it, I think this panel is going to be very, very expansive to our region. So I hope you will enjoy it. I would like to also thank to Česká Spořitelná for supporting Moonshot Platform and also bringing and helping us bring these speakers to Czech Republic. But without further ado, please welcome Her Highness Radika Radže Gaekwad of Baroda. Carla Pinheiro Sublett. Please welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Alisa Su Lynch. Ranji Nagaswani. And as you see, we have two more chairs. And we decided to go and create a little different dynamics in this interview process, in this panel discussion. Some of you might know that this Colors of Ostrava, this melting pot, is special for us because we decided to bring in Moonshot Platform. Moonshot Platform is an accelerator for young social innovators. And we got applications from over 500 people from 93 countries. And the best bright minds, the best social innovators in the world today accepted invitation to come to Czech Republic and to be part of this accelerator where they can share their ideas and where they also can be connected to resources that can help them get to another level, get to the level where they can deploy their projects and create advancement in their communities or improve their environment. Two of those young ladies are going to join us on stage to actually ask questions, because we are all about intergenerational exchange, international exchange, interdisciplinary exchange. So this is part of that narrative and story. So please welcome machine learning engineer Jacqueline. Whoa, 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 whoa. And media entrepreneur Emma. Okay, so I am like thrilled because this setup is like, I don't think you can see this in any other panel, in any other conference throughout the year. It's very exceptional because in a little while you will hear about backgrounds of these women, what they have been able to achieve and what they have been able to combine and fuse and build. I said nothing about yourself. I just said your names intentionally. I'm gonna pass the mic to you to ask questions, but before we do, we had this like pitching competition here, and everybody who came from the youngsters, they told us in like 1 minute or 2 minutes, they told us who they are, where they come from, and what are the highlights in their life. And I would like to ask you the same, if you don't mind, to tell us what you are known for in your own place, in where you come from, also where you come from, and then what's important to you while you're here. Please.
Thank you, Yemi. So to give you a background, I come from a royal family. So in India, I am a queen. And the traditional role of a queen in today's day is very, very decorative. It's not really functional. But I've decided, I mean, over the years, I have pushed that definition of what a queen is. And I am considered to be India's most modern queen today. And that comes from my personal interest in service and working with craft, culture, the communities and causes. This has been the focal point of my work journey, and it's just my highlight has been to meet more people, evolve as an individual, be able to connect different communities and serve. And I think that continues to be my journey. So it began as a decorative role, but try and make that decorative role as effective as I could, because I've had this beautiful platform and I felt it needed to be to have a purpose.
Thank you. Yes. So I have met Radhika during one of the seminars under the Aspen Institute in Greece, and we fell in love because of also the person she is, but also what she does. She is a big figure when it comes to philanthropy, charity. And also from her position, she's also a big supporter of LGBTQ plus community and also trans people in India, which has a lot of very difficult relationships with the religion and with how people live, how are they welcomed, accepted to different places of culture and so on. So if you go to her Instagram and her LinkedIn and her websites, you will see the work that she's doing, and it's amazing. Thank you for being with us. Carla, another friend of mine. I know, Carla, you are both from Uruguay, or your family is. You live in Austin, Texas, kind of a hardy state. Tell us, what are your highlights? What are you known for, from where you come from, and why are you here?
Okay, well, I am a daughter, a sister, an immigrant, a wife, a mother, a friend. I am a veteran of the tech industry, where I worked for 25 years in a variety of roles across sales and marketing. And the reason I'm here is, one, I would do anything for you, so anything that you ask. But also, I feel a very strong responsibility to pay my great luck and great fortune forward. And in addition to that, I feel a very strong calling to help humanity. And I can't think of a better way to do that than through Moonshots and through the 100 amazing young people that you've brought together here, who are really going to change the world as we know it.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Mm-hmm. And Carla, because she's also very humble, she is also a multidisciplinary person who, besides being the CMO of IBM and running global teams of thousands of people and hundreds of millions of dollars, she also loves architecture. She has a precise eye for beautiful things. She has a beautiful home, a dog. And I'm going to tell you maybe more things as we progress. Alisa, please, can you share with us what do people know you for, from where you come, and why did you come?
Yes, so hello, everyone. So I am the daughter of Chinese immigrants to the United States. I'm also a former professional dancer who then went into business for over 25 years. So my childhood dream was to become a ballerina. I'm a little too short. I don't know if you could tell when I walked on the stage to get into ballet. So I ended up going to college, not dancing professionally in ballet, but I discovered modern dance. And then after I graduated from college, I spent 6 years touring around the world, performing as a professional modern dancer. And Prague was one of the first cities where I performed. So it's really wonderful to be back in this country. And then I retired from dance and went to business school and switched into business. So I went into consumer marketing, spent about 20 years at Johnson & Johnson, also worked on their medical device, their healthcare side of the business. and then and lived abroad twice. So I lived in China as well as in Zurich, Switzerland. And then when I moved back to the United States in March 2020, at the start of the pandemic, my husband and I moved to Seattle, and I joined Google and worked on the Google Cloud business. So I moved from consumer products and healthcare into technology. Did that for a couple of years. Was part of the big tech layoffs about a year and a half ago, and so now I'm building a portfolio of work. I'm serving on boards of directors. I serve on the board of The Honest Company, which is a company that makes clean, sustainable baby and family care products. It was founded by the actress Jessica Alba. And I also am reconnecting with dance by serving on the board of trustees of American Ballet Theater, which is America's national ballet company.
I think this is so fascinating. As a dancer, there is no easy way to transition from being on the stage and work on your body to then be in the boardroom and actually bring a knowledge and combine what you've learned in the studio, on the stage, in the backstage, and you're doing it really well. And I know you're writing a book also that we will soon be able to buy and learn about that journey. So thank you for being here. Ranji, welcome. So great to have you. Can you tell us about the highlights from your career and also why you decided to visit Czech Republic?
I'm sorry if this is morbid, but I want to start with how I want to be remembered. And what I want to be remembered for is someone who shone a light so that others may have bolder and easier journeys. That includes you, Yemi. That includes everybody in the Moonshot Platform, these amazing young women. So my life's work, while it has been mostly in the financial services industry in the US, has really been a journey from India, where I migrated from India, a very dusty industrial city, very close to where Our Highness lives, to the United States, where I went to business school, met my beloved husband, the chairman of my personal board of directors, to this day, whether he wants to be or not. And we've had 2 beautiful children. Our daughter is also here. You can see the whole family is in service of Yemi and Moonshot. We're all here. We're all working. And the journey has been a combination of parenting, motherhood, working and leading, and serving in society.
Amazing. And I'm also gonna spill the beans a little bit for you to give you the full picture. Ranji also worked on the team of the former mayor of New York, Michaela Bloomberga, leading his pension fund. She's a big investor. She has many different hats besides being a mother. And she also started, together with Chris Varelas, the Finance Fellowship that brings people from finance, from purpose to significance, to do great things in the world. So we are lucky to have you. Jacqueline, what are you known for? And I think I know.
Well, you can call me the bee girl. So I am known for working with bees, and we're trying to monitor beehives. And do you know 30% of the food we eat is all pollinated by bees? But we're losing them. So we need to work super hard and try to save bees so we can save the planet. Thank you.
Oh. Emma, please.
I'm not sure if I can compare. I don't save bees. As you said, I'm an entrepreneur in media, which is a very nice way to say that I started a radio with a few of my friends, and hopefully through this radio we can bridge gaps between different people. And yeah, it's very exciting to be here.
So Emma went to Holland, and because she cares about diversity and wants to make people to understand each other better, they created this channel to really dig into topics that were kind of hard to discuss in between people. So with that project, she also applied, and that's why she got the seat in Moonshot Camp. But enough of me. Please girls, take the mic and you can ask questions. What is interesting for you and what do you want to know about lives and careers and families of our CEOs and Her Highness?
Thank you so much, Yemi. So I think we're really privileged enough to be in the midst of these amazing superwomen. I believe being a mother is being a superhuman. So as leaders and as boss moms, we would love to know, as young women leaders who are starting up in their careers, when you became a mother, how did this change your perspective as a leader?
So coming from India, where women are very often not seen in a serious professional role, it was important for me to be to lead by example for my daughters, to see a woman working not just in the home but also outside and finding a place of importance and purpose. That was important for me, and I was very conscious of that, and that's what propelled me further to work for the sake of setting positive role models for my daughters, because my mother-in-law and my mother have both been taking care of the home, and although there is a lot of work involved in that, times have changed and now women have to be relevant in the outside world in addition to home. And for me, I was very, very conscious of the fact that I need to be able to play that role both ways, seamlessly. So
would you mind to share about the pressures of bearing an heir?
Yes, of course. So in India, there is it is the son is always the heir. The legacy and dynasty is carried down by the son. The surname, the family name, everything is carried down by the son. So a family like ours, which is so many hundreds of years old, it is important to bear a son to carry that title down. In my case, I've been blessed with 2 beautiful girls, but no boy. So a lot of people in their mind had the question that, what is this family going to do? Is it going to become redundant? Is it going to adopt? So it was about also reevaluating how I could be as a leader so that tomorrow my daughters can be accepted as future leaders of the dynasty as well and be taken seriously. So all that becomes, I had to be as a mother also conscious of that. So not just as an individual with ambition, but also as a mother paving the path for my daughters in the future.
Thank you. Carla, do you want to?
Sure. So from the moment that I found out that I was pregnant, my reason for being became clear, and my lens by which I made decisions suddenly came into very sharp focus. It was like instant prioritization, instant realization of what matters and what doesn't matter. And prior to that, I think I spent a lot of time on things that didn't really matter, a lot of wasted energy, but it brought things into very clear focus. Once my first child was born, my son, something very strange happened. And I didn't anticipate this because I was very career-driven and very ambitious. But from the moment I had him, I did not want to go back to work. And it shocked me. I wanted to stay with him. But I didn't have that option. I had to go back to work. And in the United States, you have to go back to work. In my instance, it was in 3 months. And I was not ready. And it forced that prioritization even more so once I was in the workplace, because I had to be very intentional with respect to what I was doing at work in order to make sure that I created the life for us at home that I wanted to live.
Thank you.
So I, towards the end of my dance career, got pregnant, and that was unexpected. And my husband and I started telling people at probably as soon as we found out, 5 or 6 weeks. But unfortunately, that ended in a miscarriage pretty early on. So any women here who have experienced that, you kind of wish you had not told everybody. But what it made me and my husband also realize is that we did want to start a family, even though that wasn't planned. And so that probably led to my decision not to stay in the dance world, but to retire after about 6 years. And I started in business school, and about a few months into business school, we said, let us start trying to have a baby again. And it happened right away. So that was also unexpected. So then I was pregnant during my first year of business school. I was at Columbia Business School in New York City, falling asleep in the study hall, and had our first son while I was in business school. Took 1 semester off, went back part-time, and then started interviewing for jobs, and was actually our first child took a little while, but then I got pregnant again, and that was the unexpected, much faster than intended. So while I was interviewing for full-time jobs, I was pregnant with my second son. And having been a dancer, there were many companies that didn't offer me jobs because I didn't have that traditional business background. But then when I interviewed for Johnson & Johnson, a very family-oriented company, they offered me a job, and even in the interview process, I felt comfortable letting them know, oh, by the way, I'm about 4 or 5 months pregnant, is that okay? And they immediately said, let's go take a tour of the daycare center. So a very progressive company at the time. But I felt pressure to only take, so I started while I was 5.5 months pregnant, very quickly went out on maternity leave, felt pressure to come back in 2.5 months. And to your point, Carla, it immediately teaches you to prioritize and to be very efficient with your time. And so I had the daycare center, but I was out of there at 6 o'clock. I would log on again late at night after getting the babies to bed. So it was very tiring, but it does help you prioritize and then have empathy for other women. But I was really the only person in my business school class having babies, and one of the only women having a baby when I started at J&J at that entry-level marketing role.
Thank you. I want to just bring this home to Czech Republic. 3 months maternity leave, 2.5 months maternity leave. Can you share, whoever is Czech here, what's the maternity leave in Czech Republic? 3 years, 4 years. I'm not sure, can men do paternity leave in Czech Republic? They can, right?
I had my babies in the wrong country.
I think you did. Okay, Ranji, please.
I think the headline for me would be that parenting has moved everything I think about from span of responsibility, span of action, to span of care. Parenting brings out empathy, sympathy, caring about, caring for in all of us. And so I think this is why we celebrate it so much, and we love it so much, and we love our children so much. Our children are both beautiful children who we adopted from India. And in 1993, 1994, when Mira joined our family, I had 0 leave. No parenting leave. So Bo and I took 3 weeks to bring Mira home, and I went back right to work. It wasn't even a consideration. And it made me acutely aware of this very uneven policy. And remember, in most countries, maternity is regarded as a disability. We have a problem when we call some of the most precious things that we do as human beings a disability for the biological mother. So of course, this has led to a pretty profound understanding for me as when I became a leader about what are all of the policies that absolutely discriminate or make it impossible, even as we talk about having a vibrant economy and bringing women into the workforce, we lose women right at those ages when we first start having children, planning our families, and don't have a way to take time for them and care for them. So bravo to the Czech Republic. I think the US can learn something from this.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have so much maternity leave, but we also have a massive gender pay gap. So it's, you know, there's good and there's bad.
Touché.
I wanted to ask, I mean, coming into motherhood, that's such a huge change. Were you scared? Was there any fear involved when it comes to combining being a mother, having a career? And if yes, which of these fears actually came true, and how did you then deal with that?
And I would like to just encourage you to just speak whenever you want, when you feel like you have a strong opinion. We don't have to do this. Yeah, so.
Any volunteers?
Was there fear, and did it come through?
I can start. Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was pregnant with my second child, starting a full-time job, having been a dancer. And so when I started at Johnson & Johnson, clearly I was pregnant, but I felt like I really had to prove myself with, so, you know, in my mind, my identity had always been as a dancer, and now my new identity was going to be as a businesswoman. And so I never talked about dance, and I almost acted as if I, you know, wasn't about to have a second child and had a baby. So I think my fear was that I wouldn't be taken seriously as a mother, as a person with a less traditional business background. And so I didn't talk about it. I almost hid it in a way. And after I ended up having, by the way, I have 2 boys who are now 25 and 26. But when I became a manager, I got some 360-degree feedback from my team, and the feedback was, you're all business. We don't feel like we know you at all. You're very efficient, you're good at your job, but we don't know you. And it made me realize that I needed to share more of my personal life, and I started to talk about my kids. And by that time, there were other people who were starting families. People came out of the woodwork to say, hey, I love dance. I used to dance as a little girl as well. Tell me more about that. And so now, if you remember my introduction, I started by saying I was a former dancer who then went into business. And that was really, that helped teach me to embrace and bring my whole self to work. But I was with a pretty welcoming company that made it possible for me to do that, and some others may not have.
And I just want to investigate on the fear. Is it that there was fear from saying it because it would put you somewhere else than where you want to be in their eyes, or?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was very ambitious. I didn't want to be not considered for promotion or considered less than my peers. So I think I tried to work doubly hard and make sure that, you know, in my mind, I think I thought people might see that as problematic, that I had 2 young kids. And maybe would not work as hard. So it was very hard on me and my body. And in fact, so I had started out nursing in my full-time job, and then it was too hard. I started traveling, was pumping milk in the airport, and I decided I can't continue nursing. So I'm very jealous of those of you who are able to stay home and do that.
Thank you. Please.
I had no fear because I was terribly naive. And the naivete came from 2 things. Number one, I think there's a special place in heaven for single parents. How a single mom or a single dad parent is impossible, because for us it became this logistical, administrative, who's in charge, who's getting home today, who's picking up, who's doing what. And without that partnership, I don't think we could live our lives the way we do. But the naivete also came from not understanding the immediate assumptions that would be made about me because I was now a mother. Assumptions like, well, of course you can't take this Middle East trip. Of course you can't stay late. Of course you can't travel. Of course. So these immediate, explicit bias in the 80s and in the 90s, which I hope has tempered a lot now, but there was just no question in the minds of all the men who were above me as to what I was going to be able to do or not do as an employee.
Can I add, Ranji, and from other women? So I had, just short story, you know, when I was fairly late in my pregnancy, in my first role, I had a female boss, a mom, and she wanted me to travel for a business trip in my 8th month of pregnancy. And, you know, I said, I'm not comfortable doing that. That's pretty late. And she said, well, when I was pregnant, I traveled for, you know, all these meetings. And I said, well, I'm not comfortable doing that. And I felt like it took a lot of courage for me to say that. But I, you know, for my baby, I was not willing to do it.
Interesting. Fun fact, I'm looking behind you at the AI translation, and I'm seeing that the AI translation is leaning to a male gender, even when you say, I'm pregnant. So in Czech, it's very interesting, yeah? So I would suggest that the coder might have been a man, because this is a discussion, and I'm seeing, and everything sounds like there is 6, 7 men talking about pregnancy when you look at the Czech language. Fun fact, please. Or Radhika, did you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to come in. In the Indian context, there is a lot of guilt associated. I suppose it's also cross-cultural, but in India, if you are a working mother, you are continuously feeling guilty and self-doubting, and also society is asking you those uncomfortable questions of who have you left your child with? Is your child all right? Is she doing all right in school? How could you leave? Including my mother would ask that, how could you leave her? She's running fever, you know? So even though you're trying to work, you're really divided. Some of the time, I think when you have children, you are never really comfortable in either places because you are so divided mentally and physically, trying to be in both realms.
Thank you, thank you.
So Ranji, you just mentioned that some people perceive being a mother as a disability. And I'm wondering, after you became a mother, did you feel that you lost some respect from some people, and did you have to kind of work trying to regain back that respect? And I'm wondering how that went like.
I know this is not a panel on women in leadership, but I think the respect was, or the lack of respect had to do with assumptions people made about my competence as a woman, not necessarily linked to my competence as a working mom. I do know that very often the respect that I lost was from traditional men. So I flew to the Middle East, I flew to Central America, I flew to India for my work, and almost everybody first had made an assumption that I was a man, yeah, because I'm coming, and my name is sort of, you don't know, Ranji Nagaswani, what is that? And second, they assumed that my husband's last name was Nagaswami. I did not take his my husband's last name is Hopkins. And third, they would ask me what my husband did. So the social conversation was almost to make my identity a little bit irrelevant and ask me these questions, because I think men in those years didn't know what to do with a working woman who was competent and is saying that she's a mother and showing pictures of her kids.
Interesting.
Sorry, I'll just quickly come in here. I do a lot of work, but even today, my husband gets called for an appointment to discuss my work, which is my domain. But he has to direct those calls or those people to me because they refuse to believe that they think I'm just ornamentally the person in the front. The actual work is happening by my husband. So he's the guy to be contacted. It's so frustrating, but this is how it is.
Carla?
I would say I also had the amazing good fortune of having people help me and point things out to me. So early in my career, when I was relatively new to management and I was still very young, I was working in Latin America. And everybody referred to me as Carlita. even though I was a leader within the organization. And Carlita in Spanish is the diminutive of my name, of Carla. It's like saying little Carla. But it felt very comfortable to me because my family calls me Carlita. So I didn't think anything of it. It felt warm and I enjoyed it. But one of my peers said to me, you shouldn't let them call you that. It's so disrespectful. And I didn't realize it. And he began correcting people. When people would call me Carlita, he would say, her name is Carla. And he would correct them every time until finally people stopped. And then I had a second occurrence. I had also a mom, a boss, a woman that I was working for, and I was trying to get a meeting with an executive at the company who was making it very difficult for me to get a meeting with him, but it was an important meeting. So she set the meeting with him. She was at a higher level in the company. And so she set the meeting with him, and then she walked me over to his office, and then she left me there in front of him. She said, I wanted to introduce you to Carla. She's been trying to get on your calendar, and she left. And before she left, she whispered in my ear, and she said, I know you're not an executive yet, but I need you to act like one. And something in my mind clicked, that the way I presented myself, the way I moved through the world, was going to influence how people treated me just as much as how I let them treat me. So that was a game changer for me. And once I started to operate, pretending like I was an executive, doors began to open.
Beautiful. We say in Czech, dress up not for what you do, but for what you want to do or want to be.
That's the other thing. My father was in fashion, and he used to say the same thing to me every day. And I would dress to the nines at work, and for the same reason. So that's actually very true too.
Nice. All right, over to Jacqueline and Emma.
After your positive experiences and negative experiences as well, I mean, you are not only boss moms, but mom bosses. So how do you support other women in the workplaces around you? This could be during pregnancy or, you know, when they actually have the child, during, I mean, traumatic events that just come with life. So what are the steps that you take to support others?
So I am very passionate about supporting women's leadership and have done that within Johnson & Johnson and at Google through the employee resource groups, and have led those. And you know, I think it's very important for other women leaders to bring up that next generation and to offer coaching and mentors and become sponsors, which is a term that we talk a lot about, which is represent them. If I'm in the room where a talent is being discussed, to stand up for upcoming talent. So that's one way that I've done it. But I also now, in my role as a board director, feel a responsibility to be a role model for other Asian American women executives, because on corporate boards in the US, only 1.5% of the top 1,000 company boards have an Asian woman on their board of directors. So I feel a responsibility to help coach, and you know, Asian women in particular, I think, culturally, we can be a little bit more humble and very uncomfortable promoting ourselves or creating visibility for ourselves, but that's really critical to get on boards. So I do a lot of mentoring.
Thank you.
It's interesting that I'm wearing this shirt today, because one of the things I didn't say about myself is I've always been an agent of change in all the organizations that I've been in. And I've always thought of creative ways to actually change the policies. So Ranji, you were mentioning there was no policy for women that were adopting or families that were adopting. And coming out of my maternity leave, I realized how many women, fantastic women, we were losing at the company after they had children. And it was one particular instance where I was running a large sales organization, and my top salesperson was pregnant with twins, and she was about to leave the company. And she was telling me she wasn't going to return after maternity leave, and she was going to try and find part-time work somewhere. She still wanted to work, but she didn't want to work full-time. And I said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. I can build something for you. And so we created a job share program where she and someone else who was also out on maternity leave at the same time, when they returned, they actually shared one job of one salesperson. And while that job cost me a little bit more than one salesperson earned, it cost me about 150% of two people cost me about 150%. They were infinitely more productive because they worked as a team. So they were as productive as 3 or 4 salespeople. So I was able to show that to other sales organizations. So we began to create job share programs in the job. The other thing that we did was I began having conversations with women as they were getting ready to go out on maternity leave and say, okay, what are you dreaming of? What do you expect? What are you going to need when you get back? You may not know. It may change once you're on maternity leave. Let me know what you need. And I began to navigate that with the individuals. Some people took 5 months. Some people wanted to come back right away. Some people took a year, but I stayed in touch with them. So really bringing creativity and solving some of the problems, but also through the lens of what would benefit not just the individuals, but the business.
Thank you.
I think the most important thing I can help young women do is help you step into your power. And that takes a whole bunch of different ways and policies, leading by example, getting you to believe in yourselves, getting you to recognize how good you are. We were just in a conversation about how do you kickstart fundraising for your ventures. And the 2 things that came up were, can you network? And can you ask? Can you ask for money? Can you ask for help? Can you ask for expertise? And women, more than men, struggle with both. And so I think the most important thing I can do is literally make you aware of your power, how competent we are, how good we are, and then whether through coaching or by my own example or through policies, because there are so many policies I could name that we've tried to change, help you step into your power.
Thank you so much. That's amazing to hear. And one thing most of the young women wanted to know is, how are you able to balance it all? It seems like a lot of work, definitely.
It is a lot of work. In India, we do have family support. So I must admit, my husband fills in, my mother-in-law, my mother. So I must admit, I have a lot of support. So even though there is guilt, like I said, but when there's family support, we manage to work effectively.
So I have a very supportive husband who happens to be here in the audience as well, and it's been a real partnership, so I'm very fortunate in that. I also, 20 years at J&J, had a daycare center there and a lot of female role models. But some advice that I would give to women early, with younger children is outsource everything. Because I never had time. I didn't want to cook dinner necessarily when I got home. My husband's not a good cook. Sorry, Hugh. But
it's out.
Yeah, so, just if you're able to afford it, my advice is outsource stuff that you don't want to do.
I received excellent advice early on in my career, and someone told me, well, let me say first, there is no work-life balance. There's no such thing. All of it is living. You're living the whole way through. You're living on your drive to work. You're living when you're at your job. You're living when you're worrying about your child. You're living when you're coming back. You're living when you're on a flight. You're living when you're with your friends, with your husband. All of it is life. And somebody once said to me, work life is on a continuum. There's not going to be any one day where you're perfect, where you're the perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect best friend. You read a novel, you exercise, you grow a business. It's impossible to achieve that balance in a day or a week or sometimes even a month. You have to seize the moments and decide when you're going to invest in one thing over the other, and there are trade-offs and things break. There are things that fall away. And those things can break your heart at times. So you have to be clear on what it is that you're trying to ultimately achieve and what your motivation is and all of that. But I think as I get older, one of the other things that I realized, coming back to what I said in the beginning, is, okay, if we are all just living all the time, how do we make the most of every moment? How do we bring the most enjoyment and fulfillment to every moment? How do we begin to mix it? How do we begin to introduce our coworkers to our family, as you were saying? How do we bring our children into the office? How do we bring our coworkers to exercise with us? And starting to become more fluid in the way we move through the world, and that's definitely what I've done as I've gotten older, and it makes life a lot more enjoyable.
Since balance is a myth for working mothers, I think the word I would use is grace. I learned to give myself a lot of grace for the complete lack of balance in my life. And it isn't as if work took me away all the time. Sometimes parenting took me away from work. Sometimes service took me away from work and parenting. So balancing work, service, and parenting, and honestly love, like you need to maintain your relationship with your partner as well, has always never been an issue for me because I've never tried. What I've tried to do is live an integrated life. And I think we hit on something early, Bo and I, in our marriage, which is we brought the children into everything as soon as we could. So if we were serving and we were serving a Thanksgiving meal, they came with us. If we were traveling and went on a business trip to Calgary or to Japan, we brought our children with us. If we were doing something different, or to work, oh my gosh, my children have been to my office more than almost any other children. And that also, because I was now the boss mom, it gave permission to other women and to other parents to start absolutely integrating their lives, their work, so that the grace is two ways. You can't just take it, you have to give it. And knowing that that was the kind of leader I was perhaps the most important signal in terms of any values I wanted my employees to have about how they could be and how they could parent and love and be successful at work.
So I'm wondering, we have a couple of minutes left, 10 minutes left, and I also want to open it up. Do you want to continue with your questions? Should I open it up for the audience? Is that cool?
Yeah, of course. I have
Okay.
one more question. and
Go
it's
for it.
Very short. It seems that your lives have become we once you had children. Is there still space for me time?
Okay, interesting.
Absolutely, yes. You have to make space for yourself. Because if you're not there 100%, how can you be there for your family? Yes.
Yeah, I think that's, everybody is on the same page. And I will spill the beans on Carla because she says you can't get perfect in one day. And I'll argue, you spend one day with Carla in Austin, she will take you in the morning to Pilates on this transformer machine when you're like this. When they will make you put your leg here and tie up, it looks like torture. Then she'll take you to cranial sacral therapy, then to yoga, then to hot yoga, and by the evening, and then hiking, and by evening you will feel perfection. So I will ask the audience if I will come with the microphone if you don't mind. Thank you, Your Highness.
Hi. I don't have so much a question as a comment because you made it seem like the Czech Republic is such a progressive country, letting female workers stay at home for up to 3 years and offering parental leave opportunities even for men. And I don't think it's all peaches and cream over here either. I'm a working mom myself. And while I'm very grateful for the opportunity to stay at home with my kids for a longer time than 2 or 3 months, which I don't envy you at all, to be very honest, I have to say that the amount of judgment when you do go back to work earlier then the 3 years that is the standard is intense. It's a lot of like Her Highness commented on, like, where's your kid? How can you do that? You're neglecting your kids. Why did you have them in the first place if you don't want to spend time with them? And also, it's horrible, like for the women who do stay the whole time allotted. It's really it's a social isolation, and there are very little childcare opportunities that are not private and therefore easily affordable for women who are not privileged enough to either have enough savings or a very well-off husband. So Czech Republic has a long way to go too, and I think it's about giving women the option to choose how long they want to stay at home or if they want to go back to work.
Thank you. Nadia, have a look. Please.
Well, it's really inspirative talk, and I'm thinking about how motherhood enriching us as human creatures. So I have one question for you all. If you would choose one thing you wouldn't have if you are not a mother, what it would be? Well, for me is, for example, tenderness. Well, I'm enriched by my children because I wouldn't have it if they won't be. So if you can choose one thing, what would it be?
Thank you. One thing that you would miss if not becoming a mother.
I think I have really underestimated how much my children teach me.
Thank you. Alisa?
Just that unconditional love. I feel like that's instantaneous and maybe not experienced before I had kids.
I mean, everything. My reason for being alive. Yeah.
Thank you, Carla. And Your Highness?
I don't want to say patience, but definitely. But I think they connect you to a sensitive side you did not, they unlock something you didn't know that existed. And it's so deep and pure that it makes you marvel at what you're capable of as a mother.
Thank you. So we have time for maybe one, maybe two more questions. Looking around. Oh, there is a question from a man. Not to put you on the spot, Sami.
Hi. First, I would like to thank you for this talk. And since the topic is about boss moms, I would like to ask you, what is the things that you would like husbands in general to do to support you in your journey of being a mom and being a boss at the same time?
Thank you. Yeah. Now we slowly moving into education of men. Nice. Let's go for it.
I think respect. It's not always possible for your spouse to understand where you are in your work and how passionate you feel for it. But if you have a spouse who respects your choice and there is an understanding, I think that's the most important thing.
Carla?
Well, we've heard the women up here, and I too have a very supportive husband. So I would say support in all the ways. Emotional, mental, physical, around the house with the children, having a true partnership.
Thank you.
Open communication, because that's critical for any relationship.
Yes. I want to recount a very quick story. There was a point when we had a very significant crisis in the family. We needed to go to therapy. So first, come when your wife wants you to go. Second, the therapist looked at my husband and I and said, how you handle this will either break your marriage or make you closer than you've ever been. So open communication, because when you go through those hard times that are absolutely going to happen, will it make you stronger or will it break you?
Okay, time for last final question. It better be good. another gentleman, Harrison Shook from Atlanta.
This is really embarrassing, but I was going to ask the exact same thing that Sammy asked.
You had the same question?
I was going to ask your
yeah.
best advice to non-working mothers, including men, including potential husbands. But you guys answered so eloquently, so thank you all.
Okay, thank you. And there is another one. I see it. I see you. I see you. I'm coming. It was here, right? Yes.
So, hi. I would like to ask you one thing. So, I work in a leadership, but I'm not a mom yet. I hope to be one day. So, what would be your advice to me as a boss, let's say, and a future mom in my career and in my life?
We can pick one person to answer this question.
Focus on prioritization, because that becomes especially critical once you have children. And if you're good at prioritizing now, that's really going to benefit you. And that's communicating those priorities also to your team and allowing the mothers and the fathers on your team also to prioritize their families. Start that now so you set the example that's when you come back, that's what you expect.
Also fitness. One doesn't realize it, but you need a lot of fitness to be a mom and working.
Yeah, so physical endurance.
Physical fitness, because you need to be alert both ways, and otherwise you get cranky, you snap at work, you snap at home. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not answering the question.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say fitness in all the ways. So mental, physical, and spiritual.
Thank you. We have 60 seconds left.
I'm not answering the question.
Done.
I think it would be wrong of us not to have a shout out to non-working moms, because you're also boss moms. And there is so much judgment that can come out of a panel like this for anybody in the audience who has made a very thoughtful choice with your partner, with your family, that your work, underappreciated around the world, will be to be the primary caretaker of your families at home. So I think a shout out from all of us to those of you in the audience.
So I'm very, very proud that we had an opportunity to do this in Ostrava, to do this in Moonshot, to do this in Meltingpot. I was raised by a single mother in the 80s and 90s in Liberec. And if I should wish for one thing, it is that we should create an environment where our women don't have to become men, because mothering is the most important job of all. Thank you. Once again, Her Highness Radhika Raje, Gaekwad of Baroda, Carla Pinheiro Sublett, Alisa Lynch, Ranji Nagaswani, Jacqueline, the bee woman, and Emma, the future Murdoch giant.